Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session, Investing in a Future World. What will be the role of philanthropy? It's great to see everyone, especially given 1,000 other parallel sessions today, so thank you for coming to ours. Future proofing. We frequently use and hear this term. We talk about future proofing everything from our individual lives and our careers to our physical homes, to our businesses, organizations, and global institutions. At this forum and beyond, we also talk about future-proofing our cities, our countries, our planet. But what does that actually take to not only future-proof, but to imagine, reimagine, and co-create positive futures where our planet and all of us who live on it thrive? Philanthropy has been grappling with these questions and working to build a better tomorrow long before there was the institution or sector of philanthropy. Philanthropy is not only uniquely positioned to contribute to a better future, but it also has a higher duty to fulfill its social purpose and be a responsible steward, not only of today, but of a better, more hopeful tomorrow for all communities around the globe. I would also argue that philanthropy has the responsibility to radically reimagine and put resources behind not just what is probable, but most importantly, what could and what should be. The world today is at a key inflection point. There are no more participation trophies. It's not enough for all of us to mean well. We actually have to do good. We have to do it with intentionality. We have to do it with an acute sense of urgency and an acute sense of purpose. And we have to do it together. And we have to do it for everyone. To accomplish this, what must philanthropy invest in? With whom should it co-invest and co-create? And most importantly, for whom? And who does it include in the decision-making and conversations when doing so? How does it make sure that the interests of the most vulnerable of our planet's citizens are not left out of the future we envision and create? Our panel here today is to share some of the thinking and work that is being done around these questions. And I'm honored to host a conversation today with these three remarkable individuals who have dedicated their careers to making philanthropy not a luxury good, but a futures-focused transformative power. These are Henry Kilonzo of Safaricom Foundation in Kenya, Dr. Sonia Jaafar, the CEO of Abdulla Ghurair Foundation right here in Dubai, and Naghma Mulla, the CEO of EdelGive Foundation in India. And I would also like to recognize the organizers and host of the forum for allowing us to and giving us the space to anchor these conversations, not in the perspectives of the global north, which usually dominate these conversations, but in the perspectives of the global majority, the perspectives that are rooted in centuries of history, tradition, wisdom, and the rich connective fabric of communities. And in terms of this session, it's going to be pretty quick because we only have 45 minutes altogether. We're going to take the first 30 minutes to have a conversation with our panelists, and then we'll open up the floor for questions from you. So let's begin. Hello, Dr. Sonia and Henry and Naghma. It is an honor and a privilege to be here on this panel with you. And Dr. Sonia, I would like to start with a question to you first. Under your visionary leadership, the foundation has empowered youth, it has sparked innovation, and convened a really broad coalition of partners to build a better tomorrow. Could you share with us a little bit more about the main pillars of the foundation's work? What does it mean to be futures-oriented for your mission? And how does the foundation invest in the future?
Sure, thank you. So in terms of the Abdulla Ghurair Foundation, I like to always say it's been 60 years in the making because Abdulla Ghurair himself is from Dubai, and he started off as a pearl fisherman and believes deeply in education. So as he was growing into his business role as a business leader, he himself started to become a philanthropist as per the UAE values and traditions. In 2015, we launched and formalized that, where 1/3 of his wealth was given. And I think we've got a real privilege in that we don't need to fundraise. We have one benefactor and one vision, which is see how education can elevate every Arab youth to the next level wherever they are, focusing on those who are underserved. And underserved can look very different in, for example, Lebanon today, or in a rural area in Oman or in Syria. And because that is our playground, so to speak, we really do focus on Arab youth. And we know that in the region we have a population bulge of youth and we have a very high unemployment rate. So we focus a lot on how to work with different partners so that we can leverage what is being done well and bring in even better actors to help and expose kind of what is the issue, how can we help there, so that young people can find the skills and educational pathways to go to entrepreneurship, to work, to a job, and really become members of their communities that contribute locally and are able to solve the problems in their communities.
Thank you so much. And we heard in the plenary today how important those pathways are and how important it is to not just develop them, but to continue involving them. So thank you. Henry, question for you. Safaricom is a corporate foundation, but it's much more than that. It's a foundation that is in the close proximity to the people. It's a foundation that is investing in thriving, equitable, and sustainable future for Kenya. Can you tell us about how Safaricom Foundation works to accomplish this, and what seeds is the foundation planting today for a better tomorrow?
Thank you, and good morning. For 23 years, Safaricom Foundation has been transforming the lives of Kenyans. And this is based on the current needs, which are informed by data and analytics. The link between the foundation and the business is one, transforming lives. Because we believe that when communities thrive, businesses also thrive. We do this through health, education, economic empowerment, integrated conservation, water and livelihood programs, and humanitarian response. How do we do this? We play a catalytic role to the communities and both national and the county governments, where we model initiatives and then we get those to the government, to the communities, to the county governments, because Kenya has a devolved county governments, which are 47. So we get those models scaled by either government or the other civil society organizations, including the UN bodies. We integrate technology in what we do to improve efficiency and scale. To note is we have segmented the population into different segments. For example, we all know about the Gen Zs and their ability to mobilize within a very short time. We have the alphas, we have the millennials, we have the baby boomers who are critical. So we deliver services based on the needs of those different segments in the community. We look at sustainability and integration with the Sustainable Development Goals, which are core in our areas of operations. This way, we have identified 9 specific Sustainable Development Goals that we've integrated and we track and report those to the different bodies. We still understand the need for impact measurement and the telling of our stories. And through that, for the 23 years that we've been in existence, we've been able to directly reach approximately 8 million Kenyans. If you multiply that by a factor of 5, that gives you 40 million Kenyans out of a population of 55. We believe that with continuous investment in communities, improving their well-being, definitely that translates to better businesses where people come before profit. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. This is very interesting. And I invite everyone to visit Safaricom Foundation when you have a chance. They're an amazing foundation. Naghma, last but not least for this round, you and I cheated a little bit and started this conversation before the session began. But can you give us a little bit of a taste how EdelGive Foundation, as a foundation that is at the forefront of pushing philanthropy to build a better future where all generations and communities live in dignity and prosperity, How do you bridge futures-related concepts and the traditions and wisdoms of communities that you serve?
Thank you. Thank you, Olga. Thank you, organizers. And thank you to everyone who's come here to listen into this very important conversation. And it's also something I want to acknowledge, that having philanthropy as one of the main conversations of the day is very heartening. It's very exciting. So congratulations to all of us and to everyone who wants to participate in this as a mainstream conversation and not as a side conversation. To give context, I came from the finance world, and EdelGive was just about 2-3 years old, created by people who had just come upon good wealth. Their business had worked really well, and they set up a small foundation just with the intention of doing well. This was about 17 years ago. And when I entered completely new into the sector, the mandate that was given to me was bridging the gap of resources between for-profit and non-profit. Now, this was a time where philanthropy was not even discussed. So I was very intrigued, and the whole research and understanding kind of began. Some things that popped up very starkly were, we were giving 10, 20 small grants across the country. And we understood that the same grant can do a lot of good in one part of the country and can damage communities in another part. So we learned very early that context is everything. Second, we learned that human issues and humanitarian causes are human, and therefore they are not certain, they are not sure-shot. It's not a science. That's how we back risk. So risk aversion is something that we cannot afford in philanthropy. We have to embrace the fact that we can do 10 things right and things won't work out. But the third and most important thing that gradually came upon us is no one can solve these issues alone. No one can solve these issues in the buckets that we have created, like education and violence against women or environment. Because finally, at the end of it all, it's the community and the human being that is suffering, and their suffering doesn't have buckets. Our supply of resource may have buckets. So at that point, I learned the most important lesson that's answering the question of how is that this is not really about changing lives or funding a cause. If we are philanthropists that want to really leave a legacy and ensure lasting thing, we have to understand that the entire marginalization in the world happens on 3 levers. One is information poverty, the other is access poverty, and the third is lack of accountability. We all are here in this room because 1, we were informed, 2, we had resources to access and entry here, and if we don't like what we hear here, we will give a feedback which will hold the forum to account. And that is how any good system works. And philanthropy fails in many places because these 3 pillars don't stand. And that's how we are planning all our work in the future, and I'll answer it in the second part of the question.
Thank you so much. And I am heartened to hear that not only you work in their interconnected way in your own fields and geographies, but also there are through threads and connections between how you work, the 3 of you. And so maybe as a next step, let's move from the what to a deeper look to the how you work and who you invest with, and in what you invest when you're creating a more positive future for our next generations, and how you leverage foresight in futures in doing so. So Henry, let's start with you this time. I know that Safari.com and you personally think a lot about the role of technology, of digital technologies, of artificial intelligence today and tomorrow. How do you think technology is and will continue to impact not just philanthropy as a sector, but the communities you serve? And how are you working to future-proof, to go back to our initial framing, societies, to ensure that no one is left behind out of these or behind these technological advancements? And what partners are you joining with, and what partners are you looking to coalesce in this work going forward?
Right. Thank you very much. Technology continues to remain key in our work. To be specific, technology will continue to connect people to opportunities, and people to information. At the foundation, we have identified several areas where we are making use of technology, and this does not just apply to Kenya, but also applies elsewhere globally. For example, we still have half of the population globally are still not accessing proper healthcare services. We still have opportunities to use health to scale different programs, use of robotics, for example, what is happening in Rwanda to take blood to populations in hard-to-reach areas. In Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Lesotho, a program we call M-Mama, which uses technology to ensure response for mothers in need of pregnant mothers in need of emergency care together with their newborns. We also have what we call Afya Moja, that's a Swahili word, or One Health, that enables Henry, when Henry visits a doctor, does not every time repeat the same family history, but the doctor is able to pick Henry's history and quickly get the story, which enables or facilitates a diagnosis. We're seeing an opportunity whereby each of us, is our prayer that we have personal doctors or personal family doctors, but it's not possible. But now with technology, there is a likelihood that you and I will have personal doctors because of technology. We still have more than 800 children out of school globally. Education, as we saw during the opening address by His Excellency, that with time, technology it will provide more access to education for children. Could it be in learning? Could it be in assessments, among others? And especially in children in hard-to-reach areas. In Africa, for example, we have a program which we call Instant Network Schools, which are set in refugee camps, and through mentors from the US, from the UK, from Asia, and from this region, they are able to provide support and learning to those children. Talk about what we call non-revenue water. A lot of water is wasted. Installation of smart meters, or monitoring of water pipelines to ensure communities at the last mile continue to access water, which most countries, most populations are still insecure. We still have opportunities, in crowdfunding, resource mobilization, which are untapped. Case in point, 3 months ago in Kenya, we had Gen Z protests. Do you know, within 24 hours, they were able to mobilize more than $200,000 to support their own? That's the power of technology. With technology, definitely, and also artificial intelligence, even organizations, implementers are able to run data sets and even predict outcomes, predict donor behaviors, among others. So the opportunities are there. So who are we working with, for example? At Safaricom, we are not implementers, for example. Our core strength is resources, financial resources. But we also have a lot of data that we are conducting analytics. We have a data analytics and data governance team that is helping us analyze all this data and tell us where the need is and how and the best way to do it. That enables us now to go down and co-create with the communities that we work with, so that we are doing bottom-up programming instead of sitting in our boardrooms and going down with solutions without proper understanding of the context. Because we have to go to the community, we have to live with them, we have to work with them. And when we understand what their needs are, that's the only way we can come up with a solution to their felt needs. Otherwise, it will be very, very theoretical. So working with the governments, working with the donor organizations, working with the peer foundations. And in Africa, for example, we founded as Safaricom the Impact Philanthropy Africa, which brings together peer foundations for a common good. We sit in boards of the East Africa Philanthropy Forum, which brings together different organizations in the region to think through the best way to intervene at the community level. Because with technology, we look forward, and the opportunity is there, where we are able to shift from what we call the feel-good philanthropy to strategic philanthropy. And strategic philanthropy definitely is informed by data, and that's where technology comes in to assist in the analytics and the insights which are critical. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. And so, Naghma, let's continue this exploration of how we can center communities in our futures as well with you. from what you told us, I would say that EdelGive Foundation is really engineering better futures by centering grassroots communities, empowerment and equity in its work. But do you think it holds true for all philanthropy that is out there? And what can and should we do to anchor philanthropy in this futures thinking, in these concepts? And who must we bring on board to join us and enable us to do this?
All easy answers.
No problem.
So I think largely philanthropies are well intended. The mission is good. The intention is to really bring ease into the lives of communities. So the intention is fairly good. In practice, and I have 10 years of just being, facilitating a lot of this work. In practice, what happens is this is, to me, and forgive my candor, but to me, the only sector where we find an expert and we question their judgment. It's almost like finding your ideal mate and then wanting him to change his ways. That's how we think in philanthropy, because there is the fact is, because we are so resourced and because we are, no matter what we say, fairly distanced from the real problems that communities face, we do tend to believe that we have the answers because we are a little distanced. So I have heard it, and I trust me, I've heard this myself from philanthropists, that the poor are lazy, we must make them work hard. So there is a presumption of many kinds that communities need something, but that is completely wrong, because we are many, many levels far away from communities. That's why we all have to anchor in the community-based organizations or the NGOs or the grassroots organizations. What EdelGive had done post-COVID is we created something like a mutual fund for foundational grants. We said that finally, what is philanthropy doing? It is moving money from point A to point B and moving accountability from point B to point A. So why can't the best banking and funding systems be the back end of all the grant making that happens? So on that basic ideology, we created a back end that was just mirroring a financial system. And the front end basically asked philanthropists to come together and fund 100 organizations at the same time. And we would be taking 100% accountability of their operations and of how they turn up, because I was so confident that our processes will ensure that we make good choices, because we had designed it that way. Now, 40 philanthropists came together, funded 100 organizations over 2 years. And it was remarkable, because these were all smaller organizations who didn't have access to funding and information on where to find the funders. And they were also given an accountability loop to come back and tell us whether this served them or not. So we found there's just gains of this kind of thing. So simple answer, do philanthropies do this well enough? No. Can we blame them? I don't think so. But can we do something about it? Yes. We can fund infrastructure in philanthropy. We can fund processes in philanthropy, because in the long term, that will become better for the world in general.
Thank you so much. Dr. Sonia, I'd like to continue exploring this with you, if I may. And I know there are no definitive answers or even questions in this regard, but you have walked the walk on fulfilling philanthropy's greater social purpose. And in thinking of philanthropy as a steward of not just today, but of tomorrow, and building those pathways, what do you think should philanthropy do to become more agile, better, bolder, and more responsive? What can it do to become not just forward-looking, but futures-focused in its work?
Well, I mean, we've heard two different models in a lot of ways here, and ours is even a separate model from that. I can talk about what we've done, and I can talk about what I heard in New York a month ago, and that's, it's really interesting that you said that, because when His Excellency Abdulla Ghurair, who's the leader of our philanthropy, he wanted to make sure that he had somebody at the helm who understood education. So he waited 5 months to replace his first CEO until he found the right person. I've been here for 5 years, so verdict's still out if I'm the right person, but he's kept me so far. I have a PhD in it. He wanted somebody who understood on the ground thinking. I didn't come from C-suite, I came from the ground up, right? And if you take a look at the entire team, every single person has worked on the ground and now are at headquarters. So I think that there's a model in honoring people who have done the work And I'll just disagree with you on one point. The other industry or field where you take an expert and then tell them that we're going to ignore your advice is education. So I'm in philanthropy and education, and any teacher will tell you this, right? A parent knows better. So I think that we have a lot of learning to do that will not happen until you have humility. And I think we're really blessed, I'm blessed, to be working with a board of people who are business leaders and who have a reputation for being business leaders and all that goes with that, and yet sit down and say, okay, what is the best in class thinking on this? Where do I go to find it? Go find it for me if you don't know, which I am allowed to say. All of the things that actually make a business agile and successful. If you look at NVIDIA, if you look at Apple, if you look at Tesla, if you look at every single one of the top 20, or maybe the Forbes 100 list, they will tell you the same thing. Agility, intelligence, moving fast, knowing what's going on. There's no difference here. The only difference is my ROI is not to make money, but my ROI is to become obsolete. The day I become obsolete, let's face it, philanthropy exists because the systems are broken. That's what's going on. I exist in this position because the systems in the Arab region are broken, and somebody who has benefited and done well within these broken systems has said, I can't seriously just live my life happily while watching our neighbors not live happily because they didn't have the same opportunities. So go fix that. The day that's fixed in a systematic way that holds equilibrium, which I think is what the Arabo-Islamo values is about, holding equilibrium, then the philanthropies will dissipate because we won't need them. And that is what, earlier they said, what if and imagine. That's my what if and what I imagine. Every child has a belly full of food. Every child has water, power, and an opportunity to be educated. Now, not everybody wants to be a doctor. Some of them want to be artists. Why can't we hold equilibrium and allow for this to happen? And we see, I live in the UAE for a reason. I had the choice of living anywhere in the world. I was extremely blessed in my life. I live here because in this equilibrium of tolerance, they've gotten us closer, to me anyways, they've gotten us closer than anyone else. We're sitting in the Museum of the Future where you get to imagine anything. And to me, that's the future of philanthropy, that it should not exist. But instead, we will be doing good throughout in a sustainable way, the way you're talking about, the way you said earlier this in your talk.
Thank you, Dr. Sonia. And what a powerful note to transition to our next question, which is about imagining how we can fix the broken systems and reimagining how we can completely, radically revamp them or create new systems. And that is, how do you imagine philanthropy will contribute to creating a better planetary future? And Naghma, let's start with you. Let's just go in this order now.
One is philanthropy in isolation cannot do anything. Like, I agree with Dr. Sonia that philanthropy comes in when systems are broken. So the ideal thing is philanthropy should not be needed at all. But if philanthropy has to play an important role, and it will, given that I don't see systems fixing themselves up anyway, I think I would like to use the analogy of a Google map, and everyone here, I'm assuming, uses Google map for some reason or the other. Can someone just tell me, what is the best feature of the Google map? What is it that you value most in the Google map?
It's direction.
Yeah. True. Anyone else? Correct. So thank you. I was with a room of technicians who were the original engineers in Google Map, and you know what they said, and they found this true also. The most important aspect of the Google Map is not the red symbol of your destination. It is that blue blinker which shows you where you are. What philanthropy has to do if we want to get it right, is to have the blue blinker going all the time. Are we winning? Are we losing? Are we missing the point? Are we clued into communities? How are we adapting? Yes, agility is very important. If this community's behavior is shifting, are we agile? Philanthropy has the power to be agile. And if we are not, that is doing disservice to us. So I think for the future to be what it can be, as bright it can, philanthropy has to be agile, it has to be introspective, it has to fund risk and be proud of failing at times because the risk was so big, but we still tried. Today, we don't do those conversations enough. And the last but not, we have to design for inclusive stakeholder work. We cannot simply go for one kind of a problem. And if we are, then we have to partner with others who are working with other problems. And that's how the grid kind of materialize.
Thank you. Dr. Sonia, how would you answer that question?
Sure. I would say that I'm going to go back to a saying that my boss, His Excellency Abdulla Ghurair, says all the time when he is on the ground, actually, with beneficiaries. We have 200,000 of them to date, and we are not 10 years old yet. He always kind of sits with people, and at a certain point, he will tell them, generally when they're thanking him, you know, I need you to be a philanthropist yourself. And oftentimes, these are underprivileged people who are like, well, I have to wait till I make it. And his answer is no, today. Every single person has something of value to give to somebody else that you can give, be it your time, be it a tool, be it your intelligence, whatever that is a form of giving. And if we can just move back and step back from the word philanthropy, strategic philanthropy, charity, because we'll all have different definitions, and just hold on to what good giving looks like, then it becomes something more generic that we can all engage in. In terms of strategic philanthropy, I always just think, what is our good giving? What is the high level impact that we can achieve so that one day the person in their community can tell us, I got this, right? And then they will take care of it. And we have seen it already in communities that we've served. There's a young woman in Jordan, comes from the poorest part of Jordan. We've managed to go to the ground, allow the parameters of culture to be addressed so that she could go to Amman to get her certification, ensure that the institution had all of the necessary safeguards so that she would feel safe going. And then now she's working in that community, in her community, as a role model, making 8 times as much as anyone else an average salary in Jordan, right? She didn't need to emigrate. She didn't need to be saved. Nobody saved her. We gave her an opportunity that I would have gotten, that anybody would have gotten had they just been in that privileged place of access, right? And we just need to kind of move into a future phase where I see the other with the same love and value that I see my own. That will unlock, I think, where we can go. And until we do find that value of, it's such a word that's overused, that value of equity, that you have value and I have value. And my value is not bigger just because I'm a donor. It doesn't make me special. It makes me somebody with a little bit of hope and a little bit of money. Who cares? And then what? Until I have somebody on the ground who can do something with that, I'm not valuable. So I think we just need to find that balance.
Thank you. And I love the idea of equity, humanity, empathy as being our conduits to a positive future. So thank you for that. Henry, your response, please.
Thank you very much. In 15 seconds, a story. In Kenya, we run a program we call Restoring the Dignity of Women and Girls with Fistula. And as you know, fistula is, somebody with fistula is, stigmatized, discriminated. And in one of the leading referral hospitals, we got this lady who was 97 years old, and she had lived with fistula for 70 years. Then we moved to the western part of Kenya, and we get another lady who was 83 years old. She had lived with fistula for 60 years. And through a surgery of 45 minutes, $1,000, we dignify. 45 minutes of change. In the coast region, a mother has to go by the ocean for 4 hours. Imagine a mother who is in labor. We may lose her, we may lose the newborn. So what do? We build health facilities near the community, and we buy a water ambulance that instead of taking 4 hours, takes 45 minutes to the nearest facility. And we work with the community, we work with the county government, we work with all the stakeholders, and we empower communities to demand health care. We increase referrals, and we improve care at the health facilities. 2022 Demographic Health Survey report. After 4 years, maternal mortality of that particular county moves from 676 per 100,000 births to 300 per 100,000 births. This is, the first story is philanthropic, the second story is strategic. Now, we need to do like Rockefeller, John Rockefeller, the senior, what he said. The best of philanthropies is the one that looks at finalities, looking at the root causes and looking for the cure of all evils. That lead us to give. Because if we address the justice system, if we ensure that those who are supposed to give services give them, then as Dr. Sonia said, we will not be having this conversation. Maybe it can change to something else. So philanthropy needs to look at the long term, needs to look at the root causes and the solutions to those root causes, but without forgetting the community that has the power. I would say it is not even the one who has the money who has the power. To me, it is the community that has the power, because they can say, thank you, we don't need your services. Thank you, we don't need you in our region. Or, that is Henry's project. It is not our project. Do they own it? No, it's waste of resources. So, understanding the community, and let philanthropy fund research to understand the root causes and get solutions to the issues which we get down there. And finally, let's have one voice, because it takes numbers for advocacy. One lone voice may not be listened, but if all of us come together, if different peer foundations, individuals, corporates, governments come together, we are likely to create change. Finally, do not count, but measure your impact. Let philanthropy do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm looking at our organizers to see if we have any time for questions. We have 4 minutes, so I think we have first come, first serve. You raised your hand first, so please. Do we have a floating mic? And we have second question. So yes, let's take maybe 3 questions total, because we don't want to run out of time. Donating my mic.
Thank you so much for those thoughtful comments. I actually have a whole lot of questions, but I'll ask just the one that is really, seems to me, the most important of mine. And it's about the distribution and redistribution of resources in a more substantial way than you're talking about. I appreciate the comments about the broken system and the need for justice. It's very hard for me to get my head around an end to philanthropy without a kind of fundamental redistribution, which it seems to me in different countries in different ways we are getting further and further from, certainly my own, the United States. So I'm just asking for reflections on significant redistribution without central governments or some other system that helps us do that. If you're willing.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for this discussion. My name is Nabil Abdo. I work with Oxfam. I want to, similar question in the sense that, for example, if we speak about education or health, etc., one of the major issues is funding, is availability of government funding, and availability not because there is no money, but also it is about this whole system of taxation and redistribution, etc. So what is the role of philanthropies in this sense and in terms of the systematic issues, especially when a lot of philanthropies are businessmen, businesswomen, etc. So in many instances, this might be also against their personal interests. So how do you reconcile this? And my second question is about, we hear a lot of philanthropies talking about, hearing from communities, etc. But at many instances, at some point, we see that the orientation of, or the priorities are very much defined by the philanthropy itself. And suddenly we see a change in leadership or whatever, then all the priorities change. And then CSOs and community-based organizations adapt to the philanthropy so they can receive funding. So how do you reconcile this as well? Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to take a stab and you can jump in. One is that there is no easy answers to this, and there is a problem of redistribution. Completely agree with you. In fact, in a lot of places, pledges are being made but not honored in time, or pledges are not converting to commitments, and commitments are not converting to disbursals, and that is a real problem. It's never been this unequal before. The Oxfam report that comes out every year keeps giving starker and starker numbers that establish there is inequality. And the tax systems in most countries are not helping. So there is, we are seeing a shift in many ways, where initially there used to be 3 pillars of society, which is government, business, and civil society. And now, and the 4th pillar was media. Right now, I'm not sure the pillars are very sharp anymore. There's a lot of partnership, unneeded partnership where it shouldn't be there, and that is the world that we are functioning at. I'm not making a judgment on it. I'm saying that is the world. I think that is why I keep talking about system of philanthropy instead of a philanthropy, because when there is a system, when there is a basic operating manual in an industry, the partners align. What happens, what is net profit in the US or in Switzerland or India looks the same, what is net loss looks the same. There is no even basic common minimum practice of philanthropy or development in the world, unless we have some kind of industry coming together. And I know in a place where there is no industry, it's difficult to maneuver, but it takes a couple to come together, some strong names to come together and say, okay, these are good practices of philanthropy. I think that's the only way I see things will begin. When we make this a systemic solution, instead of solution that calls on good people to do good things, we have to go, philanthropy has to be smarter than it is. It is very decent and good, and it's time we bring the smarts in it too. All our business smarts have to operate to make sure that we do our best in philanthropy, and that's how I see it. And this is not a perfect answer.
I'll say to you that there are philanthropies that enter politics, and there are philanthropies that help redistribute wealth. And there are philanthropies like ourselves that say, here's the narrow focus. How did we pick our focus? Well, when His Excellency wanted to do his own philanthropy in 2018 and launch it, he asked for a study to be done of the region and said, what are the most pressing challenges and where is it crumbling within the realm that I care about, which is education. It turned out it was refugee education. It turned out it was secondary. The secondary pipeline was collapsing. We have less than 5% of refugees, and in that time it was the Syrian refugee crisis. We now have an expansion of the crises, right? Less than 5% graduating with a high school diploma. What do you expect from those kids? What do you expect from those young people when they become adults? That's how he made the decision to focus on refugee education. And I can tell you the pushback on that is daily for me. No, you should care more about this. No, you should care more about this. We have a plethora of issues, And I think that when I say philanthropy shouldn't exist, it is very specifically because the systems that we have, which we have inherited from a history that was extremely biased and colonial, is what we are struggling to deal with now, right? So if I go to sub-Saharan Africa and I know that a certain currency is not even printed by the countries that are using it, then I would say you need to go to the roots and start redistributing power and authority. In the meantime, that's what I think philanthropy is. In the meantime, we're going to help, and it will sometimes be to the whims of those who want to give, because that's their privilege, right? They get to do it because they get to give. That's a very different kind of philanthropy than when you take UK tax dollars and you say, okay, well, we are the UK, whatever it is. And so I think that's an imperfect system. I'm not saying it's a perfect system, but I don't know that you should be looking to the third sector to fulfill the role that the other sector should be fulfilling. I don't think that that's a fair ask. We're happy to help. I think that's as good as we could do, is we're happy to help.
That is why in the ideal world, it's the civil society that has most power. Until people start holding systems to account and asking questions on why systems are not delivering what they should do to us, philanthropy just becomes a band-aid. Philanthropy is an assistance that is provided. It is only the vigilant citizen and a vigilant society that can finally make this system work. And that means individual courage and community courage has to play a very strong part in changing anything if it can be changed.
Shared value, just to address this question, shared value in community response or interventions play a key role, where as philanthropists, we're not just going to give, but we're also empowering the community with the skills, with the knowledge to say no, and also to sustain. And a good example, for example, in Africa is the M-Pesa platform, whereby the community is able to help the business get money, and they're also earning. So when somebody comes with the demands, then they can be able to say no, because they're empowered. They have the information, they have the knowledge, and they also have the financial resources. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to thank our panelists, I want to thank our audience, and I want to say 2 words as we all walk away from this session, because I think it's really important for us to reflect not just on philanthropy's role in society, but how we can all partner and coexist as important pieces of this jigsaw puzzle. And philanthropy is not perfect. There are a lot of broken systems in this world, but philanthropy is creating new ways of doing things, including spend-down philanthropy, which is one of the way people are looking to redistribute the wealth that they've begotten through their careers, through their lives, through inheritance. But I just want to say one more, I want to share one statistic before we leave. And there's never been a more consequential time or opportunity for mobilizing resources that can help transform the future of our planet and of all of us. And that is the greatest wealth transfer in history that is happening right now and will continue to happen for the next 2 decades. Over 84 trillion US dollars will be transferred in that time from one generation to the next. And that means that philanthropy will become an even more important partner, a partner that should be held to account in addition and along with other systems. And so this partner will be important not just in terms of the transfer of capital and the resources it wields, but in terms of the kind of impact, collective impact we can all accomplish together. And so I would invite you to use Henry's formula of 45 minutes and have conversations today, tomorrow, and on a regular basis about what we can do together to create actionable pathways for this transformation. So thank you very much, our panelists. Everyone deserves a round of applause. We're a little bit over time, but we did really well. Thank you.